Well, you heard a little of Ryanair's Chief Executive Michael O'Leary in that report. He was speaking to our colleague Simon McCoy just a short while ago about that U-turn decision. Let's hear a little.
Nobody's entitled to compensation, but Ryanair will be complying with the EU 261 refund of reasonable expenses requirements.
You have backed down, though, haven't you? Michael, are you still there?
Yes.
Yeah, effectively, though, this is a U-turn. You've changed your mind, you backed down.
Yes.
Why?
Because I think what we were trying to do yesterday was to expose how unfair the legislation was, but it's now become, or misreported by almost every media organisation, into Ryanair's refusing to pay. What we had said yesterday is we will actually pay the same terms as applies to all other forms of transport, which is we'll pay up to the fare paid. But we have this unfair legislation that applies to airlines, which says regardless of what the ticket price, you've got to pay unlimited refunds for hotel and meals, even if it runs over a 7-day period.
Is this your public relations team saying to you, Michael, look, we're upsetting a lot of people, you need to back down?
No, I think we haven't upset anybody. We've been working hard over the last 7 days to reaccommodate passengers. We're running a series of extra flights today to get everybody home. In fact, it looks like we'll have all the disrupted passengers home before close of play on Friday. We're also launching a huge seat sale today of 3 million seats for just €3 for travel in May and June. But I think it's a recognition of, look, if something's being misreported and I've made a mistake, we recognise whenever I make a mistake and we try to correct those mistakes quickly.
I have never heard you admit to a mistake before.
Oh, yeah. Well, you just haven't been to enough of my press conferences, trust me. I make more mistakes than almost any other person in aviation.
Michael, we're getting a lot of emails from very frustrated passengers. This one from John, who says, we're always encouraged to take out insurance to cover certain risks, so if the airlines needed to mitigate the risk of the European rules on compensation, then they should have taken out their own insurance. Why didn't you?
The problem is this is not an insurable. This is the ridiculous thing of these regulations. This is not an insurable incident. Nobody's insurance policy is going to cover you for an act of God like a volcano eruption. Yet the European airlines, who have now been prevented from flying by European governments for the last 7 days, are now going to become effectively the insurer of last resort for people's hotels and meals. And you have to ask the question, why is it the airline's obligation to pay for these hotels and meals? Why, for example, why doesn't Europe pass a law saying the hotels must provide the accommodation for free? I mean,
but you are going to cover those bills. Let's just absolutely clarify that. You are going to pay hotels and meals.
We are going to pay reasonable hotels and meals as required under the EU 261 regulation. Now, we're also going to be seeking then to recover those costs from the EU governments, who are the people who actually close the airspace.
So you're going to sue the EU?
As best we can, yes, although unfortunately it proves very difficult to sue the EU. And I think there is a fundamental issue here, is you have grossly unfair reimbursement expenses being imposed on airlines. These regulations were designed for, one overnight because there was fog at an airport. They're not designed for European governments closing the entire of European airspace for 7 days and then simply saying to the airlines, oh, well, it's okay, you guys pay. If the governments close the airspace, the government should reimburse passengers, not the airlines.
Yesterday, you were saying you'd pay only up to the value of the ticket today, and today you're saying you've done this U-turn. So will you pay more than the value of the ticket in compensation?
There will be no compensation. Please, you've got to get your terminology correct. We will refund more than the ticket price, reasonably receipted hotel and meal expenses incurred by disrupted passengers in accordance with EU 261. There will be no compensation, but we will meet or refund reasonable receipted expenses.
Michael O'Leary talking a little earlier to Simon McCoy. Now